Hi, I'm John Arana Jr., and I'm the leading pastor of Oasis Church in Arlington, Texas. And I am here with our awesome daughter, Karina San Martin.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, and she is the executive pastor of ministry. We are here at the Drop.
The Drop. You made it again.
And we're doing it. We're doing it. And we're here dropping truth, bringing life. And our desire is to encourage people to live an authentic Christian life, and to just empower them with some truth and some principles in order to get to that. So, how about you? How you been?
We have been good. We
light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to summer.
Yes, my gosh, the summer did kind of fly by for us because we were moving and everything like that. Which
a lot going on.
A lot going on, which has been, fun and exciting. But definitely ready for school to start. As I said last time, I was. A couple of days ago, I was going around the house and just, I love my kids, but I think they get bored too, And I was talking with my husband. I was like, it's like they don't know how to be bored. And my husband was like, well, they don't, because you're always like planning fun things for them. Like, let them be bored. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. And I even told them, I was like, we're just gonna be bored today. We're just gonna be bored. We're not doing anything. There's no big plan. I'm gonna feed you, and that's pretty much it.
And they're like, what?
And they're like, we don't have this and that. And I'm like, just go find something to do. And they do. When you frame that and you tell them, like, we're not doing this,
they'll
just go do that.
Themselves.
They figure it out.
They
But
know.
we are definitely counting down the days for school to start. And can't wait, But what about you? What you got going on? You've been busy.
Just a busy life.
You've been traveling.
Back and forth. Personal things with our son-in-law. His father passed away, and so and our daughter Karina's over there. Obviously.
Wait, no, I'm here. Tiffany's over
there. Oh, Tiffany is. Which one of you is over there?
It's okay. I get it. Now that I have three, I'm like, what?
I see. What's your name again?
You that one.
So we've been back and forth to McAllen, Texas, South Texas, and so his dad passed away. So we're going back over there, and we have a wedding, and then Karen, my wife, is going to be at another funeral.
You guys got a lot going on.
A lot happening. But guess what? Life is good.
Yeah, you're making the best of
Life
it.
is
I love
good
that about
because
you.
at every turn, every opportunity, you have an open door to do good, to show God's love, and it's like
there's always something.
Nothing wasted.
Nothing,
because
That's
it's
good.
just a good life. So
I'm
happy because I've been seeing my grandkids a lot, and so been hanging out with them.
That makes you so happy. I always notice after you hang out with the grandkids, you're like. You're just like,
I got an edge.
Everything is
like, I'm excited. Yes.
I love that.
So it's been good. It's been busy but good.
Good.
Today we're going to get back on the series that we've been looking at. We're talking about New Look Christianity, and so our central question is, what does it really mean to be an authentic Christian? And we talked a lot about the assumptions and people's opinions, and there's just a lot going on in there. But we said, let's start at the central point. Let's go to Jesus. What did Jesus say about being a Christian and following God and being a believer? And Jesus said, bottom line, he said, you must be born again to enter into the kingdom of God and to see the kingdom of God. So Jesus very clearly said there has to be an awakening experience. There has to be something that comes forth out of us that is awakened that was not there before. And so we're kind of following that thread there to be able to see how we can kind of shed some light on this whole issue. And I think that we talked the last time when we said, when you're born again, there's an awakening of your spiritual senses, which kind of correspond to your physical senses. And so today we're going to talk about how there's an awakening of an awareness of your mind. There's two types of mind when it comes to this understanding. Is the natural mind, and then there's the spiritual mind. And so when you're born again, there's an awakening of your spiritual mind. In other words, now I can perceive God. Now I can sense God.
Yeah.
Now I can interact with God.
Yeah.
Now God interacts with me.
There's a connection that happens.
There's a connection that's alive, just like I have a connection with you.
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer
100%.
some story or some myth. Now God is relevant because he's in my life. He's interacting, he's involved, and I'm involved with him.
Yeah.
And it just kind of quickly reminds me, when I grew up, I went to Catholic schools all my life.
Oh man.
All the way.
Imagining my dad in Catholic school with nuns with top hats and rules and structure.
Oh man, do I have some stories?
It just makes me smile because God bless those nuns.
But you know what? I was one of the favorites.
You were the teacher's pet.
I was a favorite because they always had me right next to their desk to make sure that I was lining up.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it.
And they were looking at me like, "Don't you dare move."
What does that remind you about of your daughters?
Oh, God bless them. No, my daughters are the best version.
It reminds me of one of my sisters, but I won't reveal who.
You won't say who it is. You won't say who
but
it is.
But it's not me. I will say that. And it's not my older sister. That's all
I'm saying. Man, you're going to give it away there.
Love you.
But so, I grew up knowing about God.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to Mass. I, did communion, did all that stuff. Yeah. But there was no real sense of God. There was no real sense of his presence. God wasn't real to me.
Yeah.
He was just some story and some
something
idea.
Heard about.
Yeah, that's it. And so, but man, when I really turned my heart over to Christ, boom, everything changed. I mean, it's hard to explain it unless you go through it. And we're doing the best we can here to explain it.
Yeah.
But there was an incredible awakening of my spiritual awareness of the reality of God.
Right.
And so God became real to me.
That's
and
so
it's something happens in your mind, in the spiritual mind, and you can tell the difference of how
shift.
You were before,
right,
and how you are. It's a shift.
Yeah, there's a shift, a shift that I think you feel it, but then after the feelings fade, you do see a change that happens in your life. You do experience a change. And I think that this is one of the greatest issues with Christianity and with walking in faith and calling yourself a Christian, because this awakening and this aliveness and making that connection with God in that real way and that spiritual mindset is so key to that change that comes throughout the rest of your life.
Exactly.
And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that process, but and I think growing up in the church, because you guys became pastors when I was 9 years old.
Sure, exactly.
And I was in church since forever. We were y'all were good parents. We were always in church, which I'm grateful for. But I do remember kind of growing up as I got older and experiencing, a lot of Christians, different types of Christians. This Christian was like, okay, that seems like maybe a real Christian. But then I would experience other Christians and I would be like, hold on.
Yeah.
They're saying they're a Christian, but this and this and this seems super confusing to me.
It's very confusing.
They're operating in this way if they're a Christian. And then I would meet some people who weren't Christians at all, and I'd be like, hold up, this guy or this girl is like so much nicer and better than this person who says they're a Christian. And I'm like, hold up, what's happening here? And I think the point being that awakening is so important, because that is what connects you to that thriving, genuine walk with God. And it doesn't mean you got it all together all the time or that you're perfect, but there is a really big difference.
That's right.
When you see somebody who has experienced that and is walking in that versus kind of like what you were saying, you in the Catholic school, where it went versus it being just that mental mindset of connection of, well, I know about God and I go to church, so I'm a Christian.
Right. And I do want to make a parenthesis here. I don't have anything against the Catholics.
Oh, of course not.
By the way.
No, of course not.
It just wasn't the place for me.
Yeah, they have a lot of beautiful
to
things.
have that experience.
Yeah.
But why does there need to be an awakening of the mind? Because in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 18, it says, their minds are full of darkness. They wander far from the life that God has given. So your mindset has a lot to do with the life set. And it says, because they have closed their minds and hardened their hearts against him. In other words, if you don't have any light, then it's because you don't have any sight. You know, in other words, if the life of Christ doesn't come in, your spiritual mind is not awakened.
Yeah. So what you're saying, in essence, is that the life of Christ equals light for us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what happens is, before we are born again, our mind's in darkness.
Yeah.
It's not that we're bad people, evil people, or perverts or anything like that.
Right.
It's just
well,
that.
Thank God.
It's just that we can't perceive the light of Christ.
And I think that's so good, because I think it just simply speaks to that mindset or that state of mind that you're in. And I love that you said that. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you this or that. It's just, it's like just this difference between the awakening versus not having that. And it kind of takes me back to the moment that I remember being a teenager, and kind of because of my experience with Christianity and faith, I kind of hit this point where I was like, you know, God, is this all really real? You know, is this real? Yeah, are you real? You know, is walking in faith real? Is it really going to make a difference? You know, because I had experienced a lot of different spectrums of Christianity, you know, quote unquote. And I remember I was going to this youth church, Youth Wave, back in the day.
I remember.
Out in Hearst, Texas.
That was so cool.
It was awesome. It was like just a small church, but it was only for youth. It was only for teenagers.
We loved it.
I think it was at Pastors Cindy and Sydney Nordyke or something. Anyways, I'm grateful for that, because I was there, and I remember just kind of having that moment with God, that awakening. And I asked God, you know, God, if you're real, and if this is real, and if I'm going to walk with you, I want it to be between me and you, not just head knowledge, or not because I've grown up in church. And I need you to show me. I need to know. And I had a moment with God. And I felt something physical, but also spiritual. Right. And it's like what this says here, when that light comes in, there's a shift.
That's right.
And I remember after that moment, there was a shift in my life where I wanted to read the Bible. It wasn't like, oh, I should read the Bible, so let me wake up and read the Bible. And it became living and active, and I felt that genuine, real connection with God after that awakening. And so, like you said, it is hard to like explain, and you can't fabricate it.
No.
And I think some people try to fabricate it. And, and it's also not like this like mystical thing that you're like, you might hit or miss. I think it's just a simple moment where you want it so bad, and you ask God for it, and then he just meets you in that moment.
And that's why Jesus said, I am the light.
Yeah.
Because it's the light that brings the life. And so
That's
because
good.
he comes to bring this awakening. And but before that, God is absent, because he's not real, he's not relevant. We're not conscious of his presence. We don't walk with him. But here's the other thing that we need to think about. It is a condition that is set in humanity, in people, and that needs to be broken. We all need to be set free from that condition, from that darkness, and that's why Christ came, to be able to give us his light, to give us this awakening. I want to read this to you, because a lot of people don't realize that this is really a spiritual work that's happening in their life to keep their minds in darkness. And that's why it's so important to receive Christ. It says in 2 Corinthians 4:4, it says Satan, which I'm not a fan of, by the way, but he's mentioned here. So Satan, who is the god of this world, in other words, this world system, has blinded the minds. See, who's blinded the minds? Satan. You know, he has blinded the mind. In other words, it's a spiritual work going on in before we are born again. Blinded the minds of those who don't believe. They are unable, and see, that's what breaks my heart right there. They're not able. People are not able to see the glory of Christ, the awesomeness of Christ. They are not able to see the glorious light.
That's good.
That brings life.
Of the good news.
See, of the good news. They don't understand this message about the glory of Christ, who is the exact likeness. In other words, it's a spiritual work of the enemy working hard to keep people blinded so that they don't see, so that they don't have an awakening of their spiritual mind.
Yeah, sure.
Because they're unable unless Christ comes in, unless we open our hearts and receive Christ.
Yeah, and I love that correlation between Jesus and light, you know, and I was thinking, as I was looking over, you know, what we were going to be chatting about today, and I was thinking about light, you know, and last night we were coming home late. The kids love when we're out, when it turns nighttime, when it turns dark, because we usually put our kids to bed early because they need it. But we got home late, and all our outside lights were off. And so we were going up to our door, and we couldn't see anything, you know? So, you know, the move, you get out that phone, you turn on the flashlight, and you're like, you know, so my husband had the little flashlight, and I was thinking about the power of light, you know, especially in darkness. And when a light is when a light shines in darkness, it immediately changes the state of that darkness.
Everything.
And its rays are so strong that it has the power to literally change darkness and get rid of darkness.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I was thinking about that and how it applies to our lives when the light of Christ comes into our lives, and sometimes we are experiencing darkness, like this scripture says, and it's not like because we're bad people. That's or you know, we're just it's that state of mind of the absence of light. There is just Christ. Darkness. There's nothing you can do about that. But when the light comes, it changes the state of that darkness. It gets rid of it. It brings guidance. It brings direction. It just light does so much. And I love that correlation between Jesus and light.
Absolutely.
It's
awesome. And here's the balance of this thing. The balance of this thing is that religious people that have not been born again have a knowledge-based God. But you see,
that's good.
People that have been born again have an encounter-based relationship with God.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's almost like it's relationship versus just pure head knowledge.
That's it.
And unfortunately, I think a lot of modern day Christians are stuck in that head knowledge space.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why Christianity sometimes seems
like it's not working.
I don't want to say useless, because I know it's not, but it feels that way sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's not how it was intended.
Because it's not the real gospel. It's not the real good news of Jesus Christ. It's the mental assent of some principles and concepts.
Which only takes you so far.
And doesn't produce the life.
Even in a relationship.
Doesn't produce it.
Yeah, if you think about that, like in a marriage or a best friendship, you know, it's like, you go through a phase of knowledge, like, oh, what's your favorite color? Oh, what do you like to eat?
Exactly.
But if it stops there, eventually you're like, this relationship is not it.
Yeah.
You know, you want to go deep. You want to have that intimate connection.
Yeah.
And goodness gracious, how much more does God want that with us, His creation?
Totally.
You know, so
I remember, you know, when I opened my heart to Christ and I had my experience with Him firsthand, I realized after that, when I got up from that floor, because I was crying, and I got up from that floor, everything began to seem different.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the same. Sure. It was the same place, same walls, same chairs, but it all seemed different. And from that moment on, I was able to sense the reality of God working in my life, God involved, God directing, God even speaking to my heart, and being directed by Him, reading the Word and the Bible, and it comes alive, and I'm thinking like, wow, that is such an awesome life.
Yeah.
That is such an awesome thing.
100%.
And that's what He came to give us, you know?
That's good.
But the problem is we can't get to all of this right now.
Nah, that's okay. We can come back next week for more.
We're gonna have to do a part 2 on this. But you know, when your mind is awakened, your spiritual mind is awakened, God becomes real.
Oh yeah.
He's real. He's alive. He's working in your life, and you perceive it. And I believe that these things lead us into an authentic Christian life.
Yeah.
And not a perfect life, because being authentic doesn't mean you're perfect, but it leads us into an authentic Christian life. So we're going to have to do a part 2.
Okay, cool.
And part 2 is going to be about how to awaken your spiritual mind.
How?
And I think we can unpack that, break it down, and just kind of add some insight to be able to help you and encourage people.
That's awesome.
And so I'm John Arana Jr. This is Karina San Martin.
San Martin.
And we are, by the way, when I ask Siri, please call Karina San Martin, it says, calling Karina San Martin.
Siri's almost got it.
We gotta work with Siri. But anyhow, we're here at the Drop.
Yes.
Dropping truth and bringing life. And we want to encourage you and empower you to live the best Christ life that you can live.
100%. Yeah. And I also want to let you guys know, for those of you who are not listening on Apple Podcasts, maybe you already are. If you're watching us on YouTube, we have our podcast now on Apple Podcasts.
Woo-hoo!
And I'm super excited.
Yeah.
Yes. So the link is going to be posted, below in our description here, that you can just, click on that link. It'll take you there. And just I believe it says follow on the podcast. Yes. I'm still learning, those new little terms. But follow us, because then when we post a new episode, it'll pop right up there for you. And there's also really easy ways to share the show with friends and stuff like that. Excellent. So we want to encourage you guys to go there and follow us, and also leave us a review on that Apple Podcast.
We like that very much.
If you want to give us 5 stars, you can. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but no, for real, leave us a review. That way people can kind of, know what you as a listener are experiencing as well.
And if this is helpful to you, pass it on to somebody else.
Yeah, totally.
To be able to encourage them and help them.
Yeah.
So
definitely,
here we are.
100%.
At the Drop.
At the Drop. And this week, remember that if you haven't had this moment with God, I want to just encourage you.
That's good.
Set aside some time and just ask God. Just say, God, I want to experience this awakening. And, He's loving and faithful, and He's going to meet you in a way that's going to be real to you. It's going to look different than mine, than my dad's, but it's going to be real to you.
It'll be yours.
God wants to have that awakening and that connection with you. So
He loves so much. He would love so much to have that personal, real relationship with you, because He loves you so much, and that's why He did everything He's done.
100%.
So we love you.
We love
Tune
you guys.
in for part 2 at the Drop.
Next week.
How to awaken the spiritual mind.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
All right, take care.
Bye.